Kuma is the most important character in the One Piece series, and we still don't know why he lost his mind. And I know, if you guys been following me on streams, I have been saying I'm not interested in the whole Bonnie Kuma storyline, but recently it's probably the most interesting storyline in the manga, and I think might be one of the more important storylines in the entire One Piece series in general. So today, if you stick to the end of the video, I'll tell you the real reason why Kuma lost his mind, how it connects to everything. Let's dive into it. Now, the first time we ever see Kuma is chapter 233, and he's introduced with the character known as Doflamingo, who we find out is pure evil from his brother. Me personally, I think Oda did this purposely because Kuma, in my opinion, is pure good, and I'll explain why. To understand Kuma's storyline, you have to understand that when Kuma is first introduced, it's very strange because it's actually his final moments as the character known as Kuma. He lets Moria know about the new warlord replacement, Blackbeard, and how he has a 0 billion berry bounty. Also sees it differently when it comes to Kuma having a bad feeling about Tej. He sees something about Tej that a lot of people didn't see early on, kind of like Shanks. Of course, he also tells the news to Moria about how the world government has been watching the Straw Hat Pirates, and they knew he would end up, Luffy and his crew would end up in Thriller Bark confronting Moria, and they're kind of scared that Moria is gonna lose, which Moria does not like. As you see in this chapter, Moria is very pissed off, and Kuma said, "I only came to help. There's no certainty in battle," and who would have thought Rob Lucci would lose? It's all connected to the current storyline of Egghead Island. Now, of course, the end of Thriller Bark is one of the main Kuma moments, chapter 485. And a lot of people like to focus on Zoro and his absolutely nothing, which is my top 5 favorite moment in the One Piece story. But Kuma explains here that Vegapunk is 500 years ahead of the world when it comes to science, and how pretty much he wants Luffy's head. Crazy because he's actually working for Luffy's father. After the amazing moments from the Straw Hat Pirates, Sanji, and Zoro, Kuma says he will be humiliated if he actually touches Luffy after this showing. And I do want to say this, he still says, "I will show you hell, Zoro." Kuma can only show hell because he's been through hell. He doesn't want Zoro just to sacrifice himself for Luffy. He wants Zoro to feel Luffy's pain and feel Luffy's struggle before he actually enters the afterlife. And the final thing Kuma says before leaving Thriller Bark, he is impressed by Luffy's Nakama and is as expected by Dragon's son. The hype is real when it comes to Kuma connecting Monkey D. Dragon to Monkey D. Luffy. Now fast forward a little bit, real Kuma shows up to Sabaody, and he even says, "Zoro, you're still alive," kind of impressed. And Zoro says, "Thanks to your mercy." Such an amazing moment. And where would you like to go? Pretty much knowing that Kuma's power can send any character anywhere in the entire One Piece series. If you think about it, it has destructive capability, not of world level, but the ability to touch the world. Of course, all this happening, chapter 513, the Admiral Kizaru, who's also a character in Egghead Island, it says pirates can't be trusted when seeing Kuma's actions. And Sentomaru, another character who's involved in Egghead Island, says Kuma's power has the ability to send you 3 days and 3 nights and then land somewhere. And only Kuma knows where you land. Such a mysterious character to know only he knows where you're gonna go. Of course, when Kuma's doing all this crazy shenanigans, he tells Rayleigh to trust him. And Rayleigh's a little hesitant and tells Kizaru pretty much to shut the hell up. "I only work for the world government, not the Marines." Now, the end of the Sabaody arc, the remaining guys are Monkey D. Luffy, Kuma, Sentomaru, and Kizaru, and of course Rayleigh, who we saw before the Egghead Island arc, and now we're seeing all these characters during the Egghead Island arc. Sentomaru says, "Finish the job. Make Luffy disappear like the rest of his crew. I'm sure you have an explanation." And Kizaru's like, "This is quite the problem." But what really touched me at the end of this moment is not the Straw Hat Pirates' destruction, but the fact that Kuma says to Luffy, "We will never meet again." Wow, powerful. Farewell.
かつて暴君クマと呼ばれてたあいつならもう死んだよ。
Now it's time to dive into the portion where Kuma is actually dead. In chapter 559, the character who also reveals is the character who's introduced with, Doflamingo, tells Ivankov the man known as the Tyrant Kuma is dead. Of course, chapter 560, Doflamingo tells Luffy and Ivankov Kuma has been turned into a complete human weapon by Vegapunk, finally restructuring his body. And we can even see earlier, chapter 558, Ivankov understands Kuma's position as a warlord, but still to shoot an old friend, that definitely triggered Ivankov, who started the revolutionaries with Kuma and Dragon. And finally, the final thing I want to talk about before the time skip, chapter 591. Pretty much an explanation of how Kuma is a revolutionary leader and the reasons why he made the crew disappear. He explains that to Rayleigh and even tells Rayleigh, I don't have much time left. This is something pivotal because yeah, I talk about Kuma being dead, but this is the final moment before Kuma officially dies. And we see this emphasized after the time skip when Frankie gets serious and tells the crew Kuma protected the Sunny Gold, the ship, for years, not just for a couple months, not just for a long period of time, for years between the time skip. Frankie also explains that Kuma's mission was complete, and after speaking to Rayleigh, understands how Kuma saved their lives. Zoro even says, why go so far? And Frankie thinks maybe it's because of Luffy's father, and even Robin thinks about Monkey D. Dragon and the Revolutionaries and how Kuma's connected there, and think, honestly, he's a good guy. Like, they're understanding. Luffy says, so he was a good guy. And I do want to say this. Frankie says the fact that he is the savior of our crew. Zoro is grateful, but still doesn't understand why. The Straw Hat Pirates and Kuma connection is complete. Now fast forward 300 chapters, chapter 908, we see Kuma is rented out by the Celestial Dragons as the invincible slave, a former warlord, a former revolutionary officer, the former king of the Swordbird Kingdom is reduced to a slave. And we also see the daughter of Kuma, Bonnie, saying, I'm dying of envy. Actually, I'm just dying because the envy of Kuma not understanding the pain that he's going through, but also just dying because to witness Kuma going through that, no emotion, just a robot, a slave. It's messed up. And then of course we see Sabo's rage, a fellow revolutionary, because of what they did to the so kind-hearted Kuma, emphasizing the kind-heartedness of Kuma. Yeah, he's a savage. We see him in Thriller Bark and Sabo Odi and all that in Marineford, but Kuma, Sabo explains he's a kind-hearted character. Lindbergh, another revolutionary, even explains how Kuma's been bullied by the world government his entire life, and they're using him as an example because he's a former king. Now fast forward to the most recent developments in the One Piece story, bringing Kuma back to life. We see in chapter 1054, the revolutionary commanders fought two admirals in the Holy Land Mary Joa's for Kuma, and they actually succeeded in rescuing him. Shows you how they went so far for this character. Of course, chapter 1062, we learn Bonnie has been to Egghead in her early days, which makes sense because she's the daughter of Kuma and is very upset because of what Vegapunk has done to Kuma. Then we see chapter 1064, Jinbei, who also used to be a warlord, now part of the Straw Hat Pirates, says pretty much, I apologize, Bonnie, but it's not a pretty picture painted. He's a bad tyrant king that became a pirate who got captured and got exposed to be a revolutionary army, and of course became a warlord. That was his punishment, and of course helped Vegapunk with modifications and clones. Of course, Bonnie is opposed to this, and it reveals a major development. Kuma is a part of a special race, and we do not know the special race. And the fact that the Lunarians and the Seraphims had such a big deal, I believe Kuma's race is also a big deal. Of course, in the beginning of Egghead Island, Vegapunk is talking with Monkey D. Dragon about he sees his death coming, and Dragon's like, don't talk like that. But the fact that Vegapunk is the one who made Kuma lose his mind, and Dragon is of course the leader to Kuma. Then we see chapter 1066, a flashback of Dragon, who's a freedom fighter, who says, of course, Vegapunk says you hated war, but Dragon wants to build an army to go against the world government, and does that with, of course, the main character we're talking about, Kuma. Another connection is chapter 1067, the legendary Iron Giant from the Void Century that attacked Mary Joa's 200 years ago. And in the same chapter, Kuma wakes up and starts running, and Dragon asks him a simple question: where do you want to go so bad, Kuma? The next chapter, 1068, Kuma of course uses his Delphoid ability to head somewhere, and Dragon is oblivious to this, so it makes the confirmation that Dragon does not know the full intention of Kuma. And we see the result of it in chapter 1071 when he crashes into the red line with no cushion. Tanked it, of course, him being a former warlord, I'm impressed. The panic, everyone panicking. He may have to, of course, serve the Celestial Dragons because of his programming, unless there was something else in his programming. It's unknown, and they even they know. Then, of course, chapter 1072, Bonnie turns Vegapunk into a child, and then Vegapunk replies, listen, if I tell you why Kuma did the things he did, it's gonna hurt you. As Kuma, of course, in this very moment is climbing the red line, Vegapunk says he made a promise to Kuma not to tell Bonnie about Kuma's decision, giving all the utmost importance to what the reason of Kuma losing his mind. We even see a flashback of Vegapunk explaining a scientist in the West Blue discovered that the soul weighs 21 grams, of course comparing Kuma's power to pulling out pain, to of course pulling out memories, and Kuma replies, "That's far too personal, Vegapunk, to pull my memories out," showing how much the burden his memories hold. And Vegapunk begs him and Kuma says no, but the fact that Kuma did it, of course, that means Vegapunk was very convincing for the greater good, for science. Vegapunk so badly does not want Bonnie to see Kuma's memories that even tries to lie and say it's pain, but Bonnie says, "No, I know my father's ability." And of course, while this is happening, Kuma is fighting at the red line. And then the most recent chapter 1074, the Kuma flashback, crying as they force him to go back somewhere which we do not know. From my opinion, it looks like Kuma has escaped slavery and the celestial dragon want him back, maybe because he's a special race. But the fact that Kuma as a kid is saying he'd rather die than go back shows you how much pain he suffered because of the celestial dragons. Now, to the conclusion of this video and what I promise, this is my speculation on Kuma's the reason why he lost his mind. I think about Goldie Roger's dream and the sharing of Luffy's dream and them being the exact same dream. Only a handful of people know, like Ace, Yamato, Odin, Whitebeard, Roger Pirates, Straw Hat Pirates recently before Egghead Island, and of course Sabo, who's just found out the king of the world, Imu, who probably told Dragon of what pretty much Luffy's dream. And I believe Dragon has a purpose, of course not the whole purpose of helping Luffy's dream, but purpose of helping the world, because I think Luffy and Roger's dream actually helps the world. And I do want to say this, Kuma probably has the same intention of connecting to Luffy and Roger's dream. Kuma saved his entire crew and sent them to islands that they would need for the time skip to get stronger and better, protected the Sunny Go for years before they actually returned back. I believe Kuma's tragic backstory, he learned the Celestial Dragons a secret, maybe the National Treasure, maybe it's that huge Straw Hat, through his special race lineage, and now he's on a rogue mission like the Iron Giant 200 years ago that connects to the Void Century. Kuma is the most softest person in the One Piece story, but no one would understand that if you just looked at face value. Of course, he has that bear-like Delphin ability in that Bible, you know, they say soft like a teddy bear, and that theme and design, but I believe he went through the toughest life. The softest person in One Piece went through the toughest life and now has the toughest mission that will change not just the world in One Piece, the everything about One Piece. I think this is going to be insane, and this is going to be the real reason why Kuma lost his mind, because it was for the greater good. All the pain he suffered, he would never want anybody to experience that, and that's why I believe it connects to Luffy and Roger's dream. Of course, if there's any UFC fans, make sure you guys check out this UFC video about Islam versus Volkanovski and Khabib. I think it's a really good UFC video. I hope you guys click on that end screen and check it out. But yeah, Kuma's whole storyline is very impactful to me, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Like and share if you enjoy, like and share only if you enjoyed, and subscribe for more One Piece content. I'm the Legend Mac, and I'm gone.